Hello, thank you. Which country are you from? From USA. I am from Hungary. Hogy vagy? Jó estet kívánok. Okay, so topic from today, for today, will be Alireza Firouzja because many spectators asked me about him. I don't know him quite well, so but I promised to prepare some material about Alireza. So, what to do? My choice was to find the tournament where he played, so World Rapid Championship. So, and he won 5 games there from 13 rounds, and these 5 games. It will be interesting to see, and I will explain what happened, and I will explain how Firouzja plays and how he can try to win against strong and also against weaker opponent. Game with Caruana too. Okay, but I choose 5 games, so maybe next time. You mean Firouzja against Caruana in Riga, which he lost against Caro-Kann in e5, bishop f5 line? Okay, so for today I choose the 5 winning games and only from this tournament. Okay, but if you remember exactly opening from the game against Caruana, we can consider it. Maybe not whole game, but just opening because there is some Caro-Kann here, as I remember, or maybe not. No, just d4 line. So in this tournament, he played Caro-Kann against Aronian as well, but it was draw. It was e4, c6, d4, d5, e takes d5, c takes d5, bishop d3, knight f6. He played something like c3, bishop g4, queen b3, queen c7. So I remember something like this. And, unfortunately, something like h3, bishop d7 now, if I am correct. So, okay, it was another game. So, Aronian white, Firouzja black. But okay, this interesting game ended with draw. So, I will start with game against Martirosyan. d4, knight f6, c4, g6. So, flexible choice. Especially for Firouzja because he plays both Grünfeld and King's Indian as well. Thank you. Çok teşekkürler. So after knight c3, for example, against Karyakin, he played this bishop King's Indian in this tournament. After e4, d6, knight f3, castle, bishop e2, e5. Karyakin choose d takes e5. After d takes e5, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, bishop g5. Now there are many different variations. The most popular is rook e8, but rook e8 here. If knight d5, for example, knight takes d5, c takes d5, c6. If, for example, bishop c4 takes. Now knight a6 is possible, and knight d7 is possible as well. But Firouzja played knight a6, quite rare line, and after knight d5, rook d6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6, long castle. He lost against Karyakin after very complicated battle. Well, so Martirosyan played knight f3, bishop g7, g3. So now black has choice again what to play. So if they want Grünfeld, or they want to, or if they want to play English opening or Benoni structure. I mean, after c5, this is English opening. Or if white plays d5, it's Benoni structure. Or Volga Gambit if black plays b5, of course. But Firouzja played castle. Bishop g2, d5. Big expert of Grünfeld and King's Indian Garry Kasparov usually started with d5 immediately if he wanted to play d5, c takes d5, knight takes d5, of course, because other options which Garry played was d6 or c6 and d5. That's difference. But if he wanted to play d5, he usually started immediately d5 with idea to take on c4 if white is playing bishop g2. And if c takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop g2, knight b6 immediately. After knight c3, knight c6. And difference between this and game Martirosyan-Firouzja is that here Martirosyan played d5. Here, if black playing this without mutual castles, d5, it's not possible because after bishop takes c3, b takes c3, queen takes d5, white losing the pawn without sufficient compensation. Also possible to play, however, castle, knight takes d4, and now there are few options. So knight takes d4 is possible. For example, knight takes d4, queen takes d4, queen takes d4, bishop takes d4, knight b5, bishop e5, bishop f4, bishop takes f4, g takes f4, castle, knight takes c7, rook b8 with approximately equal endgame, and another line is a4. Is good compensation, but probably enough only for equality. Of course, after castle, black can play castle as well, and now we will see same position like in the game Martirosyan-Firouzja. So after knight c6, white has a choice. d5 is possible, or e3 is possible. There are some other options, even bishop f4 is possible, for example, with idea if knight takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, knight c6, something like this. Queen takes d1, rook takes d1, f takes, knight e7, knight takes c8, and then bishop b7. Of course, knight takes d4 is not only move, so I just want to illustrate that bishop f4 is another possible move here. So, and e3, of course. After e3, main line is rook e8, and now white has many moves. Rook e1 is possible, h3, a3, d5, knight a5, knight d4. So there is a lot of theory behind this variation, of course. But d5 played Martirosyan, knight a5, queen c2. Another very interesting option is just play e4, if c6, bishop f4, with idea if knight c4, for example, queen b2, for example, takes, if knight takes b2, queen takes b2, knight a4, this, this knight e5, and according to theory this position is quite unpleasant for black because white minor pieces are very active here. But okay, so queen c2, Martirosyan choose a line which firstly played very talented Croatian grandmaster Nenad Shulava. So queen c2 is Shulava line. Knight takes d5. According to theory, knight takes d5, it's probably not the best move. So main recommendation of theory is to play c6. After d takes c6, knight takes c6. After rook d1, black has choice to play bishop f5 is possible, e4, bishop d7 immediately, but probably the most precise is queen e8 to leave some flexibility with bishop. For example, after bishop e3, bishop f5 is possible, and then rook c8 is coming. Okay, white is slightly better, but nothing special. So knight takes d5 is dubious. According to theory, I don't know if Firouzja forgot something, or maybe he knows some improvement, I don't know. But rook d1, c6, and now Shulava himself played knight e1. This is the main move. Idea is to play e4 because now queen is protected, so e4 is very unpleasant threat. And if, for example, black is playing queen e8, very unpleasant take with bishop, and knight takes d5, and this position it's quite bad for black, according to one game which Shulava played with white. So theoretical recommendation is bishop d7, knight takes d5, c takes d5, rook takes d5, e6. I hope everything is okay with my stream. Everybody can hear me and see me as well, right? Can somebody confirm that? Yes, okay. So after e6, rook d3 main move, rook c8, queen d1, rook c7. This is more or less forced. And now white has choice. Surely position of white is a little bit more pleasant, but black can defend. So for today I have as helpers some encyclopedias. So this is volume D3. So in page 409 I can see this position, and they continued. Bishop f4, like main line. Good. So bishop f4 main line, according to encyclopedia, e5. And now they consider two moves. So after rook c1, knight c6. Bishop takes c6, b takes c6, bishop e3. Queen c8. This game Pigusov Ye Jianhua. And another game is after bishop f4 e5, bishop g5. Queen e8. According to encyclopedia, queen e8 is the best choice. After rook c1, rook takes c1, bishop takes c1. I don't know why not take this queen. It's also can be important question. So looks like even more logical, but I don't know if enough for advantage. I would check taking with queen, but Tukmakov against Topalov took with bishop. and after bishop f5, which year? Edition 1998, 1998 year edition. So bishop f5, e4, played to Bakov, bishop e6, b3, queen b5, bishop a3, rook e8, rook d8, bishop f6, and according to encyclopedia, this position is equal. Okay, but anyway, all this line looks like quite dangerous for black and very possible that white has improvement. So knight e1 is main move, and very strange that Martirosyan didn't play it, because in encyclopedia e4 this encyclopedia explained that e4 is bad move because knight b4, which Firouzja played, and now encyclopedia considered not queen takes b4, but rook takes d8, this, knight d3, and according to Lalic, Bogdan Lalic, another Croatian grandmaster, very strong in theory, so black is slightly better, which totally possible. If I enjoy having alcoholic beverage time to time, okay, sometimes, but fortunately I have no any addiction from alcohol. So, so this is quite simple variation, but after queen takes b4, so bishop takes c3, it's obvious move. So queen takes c3, if rook takes d8, bishop b4, white hardly have enough compensation for the pawn. So this knight e1. So probably it was preparation of Martirosyan, or he mixed something, I don't know. But after just few moves, okay, now bishop h6 is obvious threat, but Firouzja played b4, queen takes b4, knight b7. So, okay, maybe not elementary solution, but not so difficult as well. And bishop h6 doesn't work because black can just take a rook and white has nothing. And after bishop f3, c5, so good but not difficult. And after queen d4, this is more or less obvious that compensation for the exchange, it's hardly enough for white. So it's I'm very curious what missed Martirosyan, quite a strong Armenian grandmaster, in his preparation. So now it looks like, okay, white has some chances for draw, but black has exchange up, and white also needs to finish development, which is not so easy, because at the moment rook a1 and bishop c1 not playing actively. So queen c2, bishop e6, bishop e3, queen c4. Of course, black is are ready to exchange queens, and white cannot avoid this successfully. So takes, e5, rook a b8, b3, bishop a6. Bishop g5, rook f8, bishop c6. White is trying to play actively, but objectively fighting only for draw, of course. Black are ready to play c4 in some moment, and after c4, rook will have open lines, and black advantage will be more obvious. h6, prophylactic move against knight g5. So Firouzja has excellent feeling of knight. So not only his own knight, but also knight of opponent. So he sees that dangerous idea for him can be knight g5, not only attack h7, but prepare bishop goes somewhere from e6 and knight e6 is coming. So h6 is prophylactic move. Knight h played Martirosyan. Okay, maybe it's possible something else. For example, h4 to play if c4, knight d4. But okay, I don't know which place will take Firouzja because at the moment I want to understand what happened in his game in World Champions, Rapid World Championship. So, for example, if play h4, he wants to exchange bishops. If bishop d5, bishop b7. So immediately realized this idea was a little bit problematic because knight g5. Also, even here probably h6 is totally possible. But okay, knight h7 and knight f6, it's necessary to calculate. And if e takes f6, bishop takes d6, this is draw. So king f8, perpetual check, king d8, it's possible, but okay, it's a little bit too complicated for a rapid play. White can play even bishop g8 to prepare rook d1, so it's not so simple. So very logical decision to take g5 square under control. And who will be next world champion? It depends from stars very much. And I can explain you secrets that all in chess depends from start very much, especially in highest level. So knight h4 played Martirosyan. Okay, of course, black are ready to consolidate position. If rook d1, for example, I think rook b6 was prepared. So bishop e2, rook takes d6. It's unpleasant. So although maybe even bishop e2 is possible. If rook d6, e takes d6, bishop takes d6, rook e7. Maybe this is possible as well, but I'm not sure because knight e5. What is this? Okay, but after rook d1, rook b6 I like. It looks good. However, knight h4 now it's interesting because now white has this 3 square under his control. So probably white has some chances. So knight takes g6 is threat. If g5, knight f5 is coming. And, unfortunately, black cannot take simply because of mate. So after rook d1, okay, let's check if till from here if they played accurately. Bishop a6. Probably there are some important alternatives. For example, bishop e6 is possible if knight d3, rook f d8. So this is possible. So bishop a6, bishop g5, rook f e8. Okay, very natural, although even f6 may be possible if takes bishop f4, rook bd8. Okay, so this, bishop d7, rook c7, e6. Another possible question is simply rook takes d8. If e takes d8, f6, and then rook d8 attacks the pawn. But of course, white cannot save pawn d7 because black plan is rook d8 after rook d1, bishop b5. But very likely that white will attack in some moment pawn c5 and it will be draw. So black has no danger. They are playing for a win. So bishop f4, bishop f5, and this moment h6. H6 not easy move by the way. For example, because now g6 pawn is not protected, so very practically looks rook b6, for example. Avoid from this diagonal, which calls двойник in checkers or in drafts. And probably prepare c4. Knight g5 at the moment it's not dangerous because h6, knight h7, king e8, and black has no knight f6 anymore. So rook b6 seems me more logical than h6, because after h6 now rook d1. It's a big question for me how black can play for advantage. Rook takes d6. Okay, maybe rook. Maybe it's possible just ignore a rook takes d6, but I don't know. For example, c4 after rook takes d6, e takes d6, and rook e7. Maybe this is possible, but it's quite complicated, especially for rapid games. Knight e5 is coming, so. But maybe even this is possible. Rook b6. If knight takes g6, king e8. If knight d7, king e8. So something like this. Knight f6 check, king d8. So, but okay, this is quite complicated. But white played knight h4, bishop d3, just in time. He protected g6 pawn, and now knight on h4 a little bit out of play. So rook d1, c4. B takes c4 is possible, but after b takes c4, black has at least rook b1 idea. Rook takes b1, bishop takes b1, and excellent winning chances. What I'm analyzing? I am analyzing game Martirosyan Firouzja from Rapid World Championship, which have been in Warsaw at the end of last year. Someone only prophylactics, no, I think it's not a good idea. Okay, in some positions prophylactics is important, of course, but if you are using only prophylactic moves, it's difficult to pretend for success. Sometimes it's very important to find concrete way and to create strong threats to your opponent. So only prophylactic can be, it's not enough. So king g2, but now g5. So white attack is stopped. Knight f3 he played. B takes c4, by the way, looks more natural. To attack the bishop. And what is this? If bishop takes c4, rook takes d6. Seems interesting, at least. If bishop e4, f3, it's possible. So looks like white still have quite a good chances to survive in this game. I'm trying to understand now what Firouzja planned in this position. This is not so easy for me. Yes, seems complicated for me as well. Okay, but what moves candidate? G takes h4, rook takes d3 looks good for white. So, bishop is hanging, if bishop moving, so rook takes d6 is threat. So actually, bishop e4 check or bishop c2 maybe it's also possible. Okay, if bishop c2, probably there is reason to provoke f3 firstly. For example, bishop e4 check, f3, bishop c2 now. My idea, if rook takes d6, takes on d6 and to play rook e7. But I don't know what is this. This, rook e7. Totally possible that this is good for black. Somewhere rook b2 is idea. So after bishop c2, rook d2 may be possible, by the way. Yes, I agree. This is quite complicated. Okay, but maybe instead of bishop c2, maybe bishop h7 is better here. Bishop bishop h so bishop f5 no you mean this and here bishop f5 may be possible, but I'm afraid that rook b2 is strong for black, and I will utilize bad position of your king. Or maybe I can just take simply. Yes, but after bishop c2, rook d2, so maybe after f3, just bishop h7 is possible. Maybe more practical. With same idea, if rook takes d6, e takes d6, bishop takes d6, rook e7. But okay, so Martirosyan played knight f3, and now bishop e4, very pleasant square for bishop, because now white has terrible knight on the pin. So rook takes d6, and same idea he utilized it, and now material are not so terrible for white, but king. I don't know why not g4 immediately, by the way. It looks like totally winning. So bishop takes b8 is forced. Bishop takes f3. I see. King f1. And if rook d7, bishop e2. Okay, it should be winning anyway, but after rook d2, bishop takes. But okay, so some work. So probably rook d8, more simple way. So now all black pieces are very well coordinated, and g4 is threat, so g4, h5, very technical movement. Okay, it's standard move, so h3, h4 now. Hola, now white knight cannot move anymore. So elegant finish. So white is totally hopeless. Bishop takes f3. Oh, of course, any move is winning, is possible. Simply wait with bishop d5 or something like this. But okay, nothing wrong with this. And white resigned because after bishop takes f3, like just taking on b5s and taking on a5, and no chances anymore. So quite interesting game. So it's illustrated Firouzja style. So he didn't play solid rook b6, and he played some provocative moves like h6 and bishop d3, but he has quite good calculation, and also he has excellent feeling of knight. It's very important. And strange opening preparation for Martirosyan, because instead of main theoretical line knight e1, he played very dubious move e4, and after quite obvious reaction of Alireza, he get bad position very soon, which where obviously white can dream only for draw. While after knight e1, everywhere looks like white has more pleasant position. I mean, position after rook c7. These positions. Maybe nothing special, but it looks like black is suffering somehow here. Okay, so what else? So this is one game. There are 4 games more. So very interesting game because was between two Kings Indian fans, Alireza Firouzja and Kirill Shevchenko. Kings Indian was played. Kirill played knight c6. Knight c6 is also main choice of another big expert of King's Indian defense. I mean, grandmaster from Belarus, Alexei Fyodorov. Very good King's Indian player. Also, Ilyas Mirin is excellent King's Indian player. So, and he mainly plays knight c6 in this position, although black has choice. So e takes d4 is line. After knight takes d4, rook e8, f3, black has choice between c6 or knight c6 as well. With bishop e3, knight h5. So this is another theoretical line. Knight bd7 is possible. Knight a6 is possible, and even c6 is possible here. So black has choice. Also bishop g4, of course, played Caruana against Wojtaszek, but this strange move somehow for me, because it seems that after Wojtaszek played bishop e3, and this is quite complicated position. But after simple d5, I like white, because in Petrosian system, bishop g4 usually not so useful move. And for example, after a5, bishop g5, knight a6, knight d2. I think Tigran Vartanovich would be happy to play this position with white. Okay, so knight c6 was choice Kirill, by the way. D5 main move, although there are... Yes, okay, Alireza played many interesting games, of course, in match against me, and not only in match. I played a few games against him, unfortunately only online, but okay, I cannot analyze all of them during today. So if bishop e3, I will just explain that main theory is knight g4, bishop g5, f6. If bishop h4, knight h6, this idea g5. If bishop c1, black has several moves here. So Kasparov against Portish played f5 after bishop g5, bishop f6. Also queen d7 is possible as well. So this, and now According to Kasparov, d takes e5 from Portish was inaccuracy, and after d takes e5, Gary took with bishop, and now black has an excellent position. So according to Kasparov, more accurate was take on f5, with idea if bishop takes f5, not take on e5, and only if pawn takes, now take on e5. So this was game Portish Kasparov. But okay, d5. Okay, Mila Zarkovic. Okay, probably I didn't see, but okay, I will try to see. Okay, d5, knight e7, knight e1. One of possible lines. White has big choice here. b4 is very popular line. Boris Gelfand during last time likes to play bishop g5 and if h6, bishop d2. It's something rare, but this is choice of Boris Gelfand, so worth to respect, by the way. So, knight e8, knight e1, knight d7, knight d3. Another very interesting system is bishop e3 here to prepare bishop on f2. And for example, after g5, rook c1, knight g6, c5. It's white has idea. If d takes c5, knight d3, b6, b4 is coming. If knight takes c5, b4 is coming. Knight a6 only move, because if knight d7, knight b5, so knight a6 and now knight b5 and then knight d3, white has very strong compensation for the pawn and good pressure in queen's flank. I lost such a game against Dutch Grandmaster Jeroen Piket. But okay, so there are another systems. For example, rook f6 is interesting plan here. Idea to prepare rook h6 and then queen e8, queen h5, try to organize attack. But okay, knight d3, f5, f3. f3, it's not the main move. For example, such a big expert of this line, Lev Polugaevsky, and also Slovakian grandmaster Lubomir Vtachnik usually played bishop d2 here. Idea to provoke knight f6, to play f3, and after f4 to play c5, and g5, rook c1, knight g6, this, knight b5, not afraid queen b6 because knight f2, rook f7, queen c2, long theory. But at the moment, instead of f4, more popular plan for black is king h8. It's quite flexible move, typical for king's Indian structure. Somewhere black preparing knight eg8, bishop h6 plan, and if now white push c5 immediately after c6, king h8 is very useful move. It's easy to see. Important that this line has no tactical refutation, because after f4 black has c takes d5 and after f takes e5, queen b6 is coming and then knight takes e4. So in all books was explained that f3 it's a little bit premature, because black can immediately close king's line without playing knight f6, and white cannot play c5 immediately, so black can do some moves. For example, this g5, rook c7, rook c1, knight g6, something like this. And only after b4, which is losing of time, now knight f6, c5, rook f7, and then bishop f8, standard plan. But okay, it's old conclusion, probably, not probably, even I'm sure that both players are prepared, and probably after f4, very likely that Alireza wanted to play g4. And, same idea like in famous game between Harry Kasparov and Ilyas Mirin. So g4 and idea to block this flag. fg ag, it's hardly good for black at the moment because white has time to prepare king g2 rook h1. So if g5, okay. No, Alireza is white. Black is Kirill Shevchenko, as I have understood from the notation. Yes, Firouzja Shevchenko we are looking. Firouzja white, Kirill Shevchenko black. So g5 is possible, but after g5, white can play something like even king f2, h5, h3, idea slowly to transfer his king somewhere to c2 and then try to play in queen's flank, because in queen's flank usually white is strong. Okay, it's not so easy, sometimes necessary to follow ideas knight f6, knight g6, knight h4, and somewhere knight takes f3, so somewhere c6 is possible. So it's sharp and interesting game. So f4 is serious alternative, but Kirill played knight f6, probably with hope to play same position after bishop d2 f4, or probably after bishop d2 he planned to play king h8. So I don't know. Also possible, of course, was play king h8 immediately here instead of knight f6. So after f3, king h8 is totally possible move. But maybe now bishop e3. It's so white at least can try to prove that knight d3 in this position is more useful move than king h8 because white preparing c5 immediately. But okay, it's not so obvious for me. So knight f6, but instead of theoretical bishop d2, which I considered. Also, another reason probably Alireza wanted to avoid plan which Tal played against Pulugaevsky, or Viktor Kupreychik played many times. F takes e4, after knight takes f e4, knight f5, or knight f6. It's totally different type of position. White has e4 square, black is planning to occupy d4 square in future. So Viktor Kupreychik, another King's Indian expert, liked to play this position with black. So probably this kind of position wanted to avoid Alireza with f3 immediately. But after knight f6, he didn't play bishop d2, so he played c5. So very concrete play, of course, very logical plan, but anyway, if black plays f4 g5, so I am not sure if white has something better than standard plan with bishop d2, rook c1, and then knight b5. But Kirill played c6. But as I explained it, to play c6, it's more safe if king already in h8. Now it's not the same story, so queen b3 played Firouzja and bishop e3. And interesting position here. So now it's necessary to calculate variation. So f takes e4. This move has not only advantages but disadvantages as well, because after fe, white rook f1 became much more active. So serious alternative here was c takes d5. So if c takes d6, for example, queen takes d6 looks dangerous somehow because bishop c5 is coming, but probably it's possible to consider d4. So It's quite standard idea for King's Indian, but what about this position exactly? Not easy to understand. For example, takes, bishop f2, for example. If d takes c3, white has idea bishop c5. So probably queen is bishop e6, queen somewhere b5, for example. D takes c3, bishop c5. So white will win exchange, although probably black will have compensation, but it's not so obvious. So it was alternative, but Kirill took firstly on e4, and only now he took on d5, and Alireza using same idea. C takes d6 and knight d5 after bishop e6. Knight d5, yes. Surely they can play knight d5 and they are winning. So I totally missed knight d5, sorry. So thanks for improvement. Okay, I have queen d6. There is some compensation, but not enough. Yes, queen knight d5 is strong, so I just missed knight d5. So d takes c3, bishop c5. Right, you are right. Thank you. So f takes e4, f takes e4. So same idea. If queen takes d6, bishop c5 is unpleasant. Also probably knight b5 is interesting as well, but bishop c5 looks like more natural, at least for me. So knight c6 played Kirill, so it looks more or less obvious that white is better because rook are coordinated. This is very important factor. I am fine, yes. So if you can compare, so rook a1 and rook f1 are well coordinated. Rook a8 and rook f8 not so well because there are bishop and queen between them. So e takes d5 played Alireza. Another very attractive opportunity is knight takes d5, of course. If, for example, knight takes e4, knight c7 looks interesting. And then probably knight e6, but I don't know if white has something concrete here because pawn d6 is hanging. However, we can continue. For example, rook takes, queen takes, rook f1. This idea of queen takes d6, knight e8. So it looks like promising for white anyway. But okay, Alireza choose different possibilities. So e takes d5, knight d4, knight b5. So it's also logical, and white defended his pawn on d6 and preparing knight c7, knight e6 in some moment probably. So bishop g4, Kirill is looking for counterplay, and or at least he wants to develop his pieces. By the way, it doesn't look that that position is good for black, so it looks like dubious or just bad for black. But another question, how we realize it. So he took on g4 Alireza. Also interesting alternative looks like rook a e1 with threat rook takes f6. Immediately rook takes f6 possible as well, but black has bishop takes e2. Although there is question how strong it is. So this is possible. If queen takes rook e1, for example, what after rook f8? What? Where rook f8? Rook e1 looks like white is better. Probably even much better. But he took on g4 and he took on f8 immediately. And now something, okay, it's rapid games, don't forget it. And probably opponents don't have so much time already. And he played queen b4. It's a little bit strange for me. More natural for me looks h3 to play. Immediately attack active knight, and after knight e3, knight e5. It's important that black cannot play queen g5 because knight f7 check. And after queen f6, more or less forced, white can just play knight f3 and attack d4. So, and it looks like white has advantage here. For example, bishop takes d6, I can take on d4, knight is hanging, rook e1 is coming, so not enough compensation for the pawn, although still some play. But after queen b4, after several moves, the situation is changed. Queen h4, h3, knight e3. Black has contraplay. Of course, white has no any risk. It's totally possible to take on d4 with check and take here. But okay, probably Alireza decides that this is not giving him serious winning chances. For example, bishop takes d6 is possible. Maybe even knight takes d5 is possible if d6, knight b6 somehow, knight e5. Again, this is bad because after bishop c1, bishop c5, rook d1, black cannot take pawn this. Cannot attack pawn d7 because knight f7 is threat. Okay, so probably bishop takes d6 is better, but even here knight b5 is possible. Okay, but this extra pawn is very difficult to realize, especially after knight b5, bishop g3 is possible to control important square e1. So this is probably drawish line, and Alireza still wants to play for a win, but what he is doing, it's not very well. So. And now, okay, it's more or less obvious that black have solved all of his problem, and even optically errors, yes, errors, but I don't know how to make. I have green arrow, but by this arrow I promoted game. I just promoted game. Yes, I promoted this game. By this arrow. Another to show squares and diagonals. I don't know how to do it. I will check. So queen takes d5. Okay, so now situation is changed, and it looks like only black can be better. So king h1. Firouzja, he's okay. A useful move against some tricks like queen takes d3 and bishop c5 in some moment. And now, okay, queen takes a2. Maybe it's possible, but actually it looks like dangerous. I don't know if there is clear refutation. Okay, for example, this is possible, and queen f6. So rook d7 is not possible. So queen a5 is only move black has to play, and probably black is not losing here, but to play this, especially in rapid games, it's very risky because easy to miss something, and it can be very painful. But okay, at least immediately I don't see winning way for white. So, for green, alt plus, okay, alt plus, alt plus. No, it's something wrong. Okay, okay, alt plus, alt and mouse click. Alt. I'm trying. Okay, board design probably. Okay, so okay, later I will check it. Probably next stream I will use arrows. So not today. So rook f8, very practical choice. Sorry, rook f8, a3, a6. So how Firouzja won in this position? So obviously he is not bad. Probably he is not better. Probably even slightly worse. Alt and mouse click on the piece. Okay, I will try Alt. Knight. Okay, so knight against bishop. Okay, so knight f2. But Firouzja has a very strong part of his style that he is not sleeping in boring positions. So even so, for example, this position, it looks like quite boring. Okay, white is probably slightly worse because objectively black queen is stronger than black bishop is stronger than white knight. Okay, it's close to draw and hard to believe that white will have serious tactic possibilities. But Alireza is not sleeping, so even in such position, he is in such dry positions, he is quite dangerous, like tactical player, and we will see good illustration. For example, now, okay, black has queen c4, interesting move. Idea to restrict his knight, because if knight will move somewhere not on d3, rook f1 is coming. So looks like drawish, but white still need to be precise somehow to make draw. So only objectively, only black can pretend for something. But Kirill played bishop c5, queen h6. So now something interesting. Queen f5. Queen f5 is not necessary as well. So queen c4 again was quite possible, for example, with idea to have rook f1 if knight will go somewhere. But queen f5, he played knight g4, bishop d6, so queen f1 is mating threat, so queen c1, but now queen c3 is threat. Of course, the black is not in danger, so queen c5 is totally possible, for example. But h5, knight h2. And now rook f2 instead of queen f5. Okay, rook f2 is possible, of course, but I think in this moment Kirill played for a win. And he is right. Objectively, only black can be better. So, for example, king g8 is possible. If knight g4, queen c4, so black has many good possibilities. Objectively, bishop is stronger than knight in this position, but we will see what happens. So yes, you are right that rook takes f2 is enough for draw. I agree. But queen f5, it's nothing wrong. So queen c5, black has no risk at all. But h5 he played, knight h2, and now of course any move is possible for black. King h7, queen f4. So, but Kirill probably relaxed and decide, okay, so I will took on h2 draw. Probably he just calculated that king takes h2, king h7, and position is dead. Okay, maybe not king h7 because rook e7 and queen. So queen f4, queen f4 takes rook e7. However, so what black should play here? Okay, maybe something like queen f6, for example, to protect against attack b2 pawn and defend against rook e7. So it looks like that draw. But suddenly queen h6. This Kirill obviously missed it. And rook e7. So Alireza is not sleeping. It's important information for his opponents. And now after rook f7, rook e8, rook f8 takes on f8, takes on g6, white is winning. So queen f1 played Kirill, queen f4, and now white has winning chances in rook endgame. And we will see what happened now. a5, king g3. Okay, this difficult. Rook b5 is possible, and after a4, rook b4, rook f2, now king g3. So white has excellent winning chances here because pawn up and also no, I'm not sure that this is a draw because okay, draw, if image with king on f6 or king on h6 draw, but with king on g8 it's extremely dangerous. I think it should be losing, but maybe not now. After exchange this pawn it should be draw, but after they both played bad, and okay, this is already theoretical draw, and but we will see what happened. So this endgame theoretical, this is draw. Okay, this is I don't know, is draw. This is maybe not draw because king h6. So why not king h6? I don't understand. Maybe this is winning for white. If rook g8, rook g5. If rook h8, king g7. This is winning, but rook f1 is very bad. This is theoretical draw. But this is already draw. But this is not finish of comedy. Rook a8, he played. Rook b8. And here it was draw, but here Kirill made his last mistake. So after king e5, correct move, it's draw. White cannot win this position. Rook g7, rook f7. Rook G, here. Yes, rook h7 is possible, but after king f4, rook h8 comeback is necessary, and this is draw. This is theoretical draw, and also here king e5 was necessary to play. but Kirill played rook h8, and this is losing move. After rook h8, it's already too late. This is losing. But after king e5, white cannot win these positions. Because if rook f1 checks, if rook f5 can go back to e6, and white has no improvement. So this is draw, but Kirill mistaken, probably in very short time, and this is already winning by the bridge. Move 39. Rook f5. Anyway, rook g7 is not a good idea because king h4. Okay, rook g7 is not losing, but after king h4, it's immediately necessary to come back. Mid gondols. What are you solving? Mid gondols means, according to my knowledge of Hungarian. Rook g8, and this is drawish. Yes, I know that this is not so easy. Okay, so Firouzja won this game. So, but very particular trick that the bishop takes h2, queen h6, and rook e7. So he is not sleeping. So he sees tactical possibilities even in after king h5, rook h7, king g6. So after king h5, black need to have rook h8 check. If king g6, rook g8, but if rook h7, king g6, usually it's game is gone. So it was another game. What else we have? So we have considered game against Martirosyan, now against Kirill Shevchenko. Opening. So of course he analyzed games from World Championship between Magnus and Jan, especially opening part of this match, and he's quite a good prepared. So bishop e7. Black has one sharp system with d takes c4 and two solid systems against Catalan. So bishop e7, which played Nihal, or bishop b4 firstly. Bishop b4, bishop d2, and now bishop e7. And now, okay, I can show you one game. White played bishop g2. After c6, white played queen b3. Another popular option is queen c2, of course. But queen b3 was played. So castle. Castle is totally normal move, of course. And black has many moves. Knight bd7, b6, a5. But after castle, white played bishop b4. Interesting move. D takes c4, queen takes c4, queen d5. Whoops. And suddenly take on d5 not possible because bishop takes b4 in check. So white played very logically after queen d5, queen c3, knight e4, and after another logical move, queen a3, black played queen c4. And white just resigned because bishop is hanging, and queen c1 mate is threat. So this finish of comedy. And so what is conclusion? Be careful to make natural moves. So after knight e4, queen is attacked, and queen a3 looks very natural, but it lost immediately. So correct was take on e7, of course. And after knight c3, knight c3, queen a5, bishop takes f8, king takes f8, castle, knight d7. This position is approximately equal. Rook fd1. So black has small material advantage, but black has very active. He's much active than his opponent on c8. Okay, so of course after bishop b4, this is possible. Bishop takes that, so the problem is quite sorry. After okay, it was a I will not advise about this different a5. Okay, so it's also a lot of so sharp medium c2 is also possible. Bishop takes the queen takes the c6, a4 takes g5 castle, take castle, a6, coordinates enough for equality. If queen takes a5, black. Okay, white has many other options, so a3 is possible. Very complicated line. This is right, and what is possible here, or knight c3 is possible. So white has quite a big choice. But okay, bishop e7. Do you like what you see from the young guy Alireza? Yes, yes, I like. There are many interesting ideas. So. And I would be happy to play another match against him. Maybe World Championship match. Okay, so bishop e7, bishop g2, castle, castle, c6. c6 is favorite choice of Anton Kovalov. Now it's much better. Okay, so d takes c4, took Nihal Sarin, queen c2, and he played b5. I remember time where in this position, according to theory, to play a6 was like forced. And then bishop c6. Other option was considered. He's working with Ivan Cheparinov. Okay, it's interesting information. Thank you. So he is not working with Kasimdzhanov anymore, or still works? Because before he was working with Kasimdzhanov. But okay, at the moment, a6 is still very solid line, but there are other lines as well. For example, b5 played Nihal Sarin, also possible b6, idea of Russian Grandmaster Ivan Bukavshin, if knight e5, queen takes d4, if bishop yes, he was working with Ivan Sokolov, but if bishop g5, knight d5 is important, but not bishop b7, of course, because bishop f6 and knight g5. Cheparinov won. He came to Norway. Okay, okay, I will know this. And also interesting possibility which Sergei Karyakin played in candidates tournament. c4, c6, queen takes c4, b5, and then bishop b7. Also, after c6, also possible a4 because b5 doesn't work and white is winning. But okay, so b5. We remember that Carlsen played knight e5 against не помнишь чьи immediately or after a4 c6, I don't remember, but something was with knight a5. So a4. Immediately knight e5 because after a4 before main move. If knight e5, queen takes d4. Uh-huh. Okay, so if he wants to be opponent of Carlsen, for him it's better to stop contact with him, in my opinion, because he is older and much more experienced. Okay, but this must be his choice, of course. So Carlsen played knight e5 immediately against Jan because after a4, black cannot play c6. So b4 is idea. If knight e5, queen takes d4. This bishop takes a8, queen takes e5. Okay, so knight fd2, it's another theoretical move. So I have seen already this position. So after d4, so I remember evaluation, this position is unclear, black has good compensation, something like this. But I never investigated this position theory. And it looks like black has serious compensation because all pieces are quite active. There is strong pressure against e2 pawn as well. So h4, h6, bishop f3, quite natural. White defending e2 pawn and preparing knight bd2. But black has contraplay because again problem of white that rook has no coordination. Black has rooks. Okay, queen will go somewhere, and black rooks well coordinated. For white, not the same because queen has no square where to go. So, and Alireza feels this very well. So now g5 in some moment can be a threat for white, and also b2 pawn under attacks. So black has still compensation, but look now material is equal, and again it doesn't look that position is dangerous for black somehow, but Alireza won. We will see how. Check, queen e3, bishop f5, a5, knight e6. Okay, I'm not sure that knight e6 is the best move. More logical looks simply play g6, something like this, to avoid some checks from diagonal, from e4 in some variation. But okay, knight e6, this, another dry position. Knight b3, queen c4, king g2, king g8, knight d2. So it looks like black has no problem at all. But a very strange decision, bishop e6, because in knight endgame it is usually dangerous if opponent has a little bit more active king. But maybe this position is not simple at all for black, but more natural looks to play king f8, for example, king f3, king e7, king e3, for example, to play f6. If king d4, knight d3 is coming with double attack to f2 and b2, and black is prepared to king d6, so it should be draw. These moves looks like very natural. But bishop e6, it's not natural because black is not improving his king, and in the knight endgame, like in the pawn endgame, it's very danger. It is very dangerous if opponent has more active king. So takes, 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 takes. Okay, probably Nihal thought that this is something like fortress, but it's not totally true. G4, white can prepare operation in both flanks. So h5, knight g3, knight f5 is one of possible plan. Probably black can defend it somehow, but it is not easy business. G6 he played. Maybe knight d4 was correct solution, idea to avoid this g6. But okay, maybe g6 not losing. We will see. f4. So there is not a lot of material in the board, so it should be draw. Looks like, at least. Maybe knight e6 is interesting here. Why not? If f5, knight c5, I'm attacking the pawn. If f takes, king takes, and black are ready to play knight c7 or knight c5. So it doesn't look that black should lose this position, but probably they started to play in very small of time. So knight c2, it's strange. Yes, yes, yes. Botvinnik, and a good illustration was game Botvinnik-Holmov. Yes, Botvinnik-Holmov. It was very nice end game. And also a very interesting knight endgame was in my game against Vyacheslav Eingorn in Soviet Championship 1988. I was white, it was French defense, and I was walls, but I defended very well. So now knight f5. Now it's more dangerous for black, obviously, than after knight e6. Knight d4, knight takes h6. Okay, but the question is, knight e3 is possible here. If knight takes h6, my idea knight f1, knight g3. So if knight takes e3, f takes e3, king takes e3, this pawn endgame, what is this? Interesting to check, at least. So knight h6, knight f1, knight g3. So no danger. So this, this. So what is this? King e5, for example. King b3. Ah, king f5, c4, g5, b4, h5. c3, g6, b4, h5, b5, h4, b6. Looks like white. Okay, this. Okay, let's check. Yes, white wins. But okay, if this is forcing, so maybe black can defend more accurately. Maybe black can try to attack a6 pawn. Maybe king c4. Yes, yes, yes. King c4 looks like much better. Yes, and certainly. Okay, maybe black is even winning. Sorry, because if king d2, king b5 is possible to take on a6. Okay, so after knight e3, at least black has no risk to lost. So. Okay, so let's try to consider. So this king at the moment looks like white is better, but something strange was happened. So maybe now he played king e3. Maybe immediately knight e4 was stronger. With idea to have knight d6 checks somewhere. Knight b3, a6, king e7. Now probably king g4 is more aggressive. With idea king h5. So this is okay. So probably they both were in very short of time, and quality of this endgame wasn't so high. So in final, black played knight d4, knight h6, and now white has very dangerous pawn. King e3, king b5. Maybe king b3, it's enough for draw also. Very likely. Yes, but king b5, it looks like too slow. Yes. And I like last move in the game, knight h1, because much more natural looks knight h3, but knight h1, it b3 was only move on 50. Okay, maybe. Maybe even here this draw, but okay, probably they played by seconds. But knight h1, I like that it demonstrate good sense of humor by Firouzja, because much more natural knight h3, but he preferred to finish the game with knight h1. Okay, so another game, Yakubovsky. Bishop d6, bishop g3, b6, flexible move order. So black not hurry with bishop b7 or c5, knight c6. So in some moment black has possibility to play bishop a6. Although disadvantage is that white can play c4 immediately, probably. Bishop a6, knight c3, d takes c4, also necessary to consider. And knight e5, and white has very good compensation. Queen f3 is coming. So this is very logical. If immediately bishop takes c4, possible to take a knight e5 or just queen e4 check. So c4 and knight c3 looks like very active approach. c3, of course, now bishop a6 is impossible because losing of piece. Knight bd2. Now is possible, but disadvantage that white not losing tempo for bishop d3 and can take on a6 immediately, and after take to play queen e2 and prepare e4. It's nothing special also, but probably slightly better position. I mean something like this. Or maybe instead of e4, just play c4 immediately or after short castle. Okay, bishop b7, black plays solid, bishop d3, knight e4. So opponent of Alireza trying to play in something like Stoneval. So I'm not sure that was very logical to play queen c2, because looks like anyway black wants to play f5. So maybe possible to play castle if knight d7, c4 immediately, something like this. But okay, he played queen c2, f5, c4, and this version of Stoneval looks like quite playable for black, because two bishops, white cannot do something concrete. Rook ac1, in my opinion, more natural to play a3 to prepare b4. If black will play a5 somewhere after cd, b5 square can be weak, and white can utilize it by go to b5 with bishop or with knight after knight b1, knight c3, knight b5. So a3 looks like more logical move for me than rook ac1. But in this part of game, it looks like Firouzja playing without special plan. So queen a4, queen b3, so just making moves, but and a4, it's very strange positionally because now white has hole on b4, and bishop can go somewhere to b4, or even in future knight b8, knight c6, knight b4 plan is possible. So g5, knight b1, g4, knight h4. So if see this mm, from example, from here till here, it looks like with white playing total amateur who doesn't understand strategy. So a4, terrible moves, cd, cd, many moves with queen without any plan. Knight and h4, it's terrible. So what is this? This is very bad. But okay, actually, he won the game. So why? We will see. Okay, white is much worse, of course, because of terrible knight h4. But okay, so he is not sleeping. So he played many bad moves, but okay, now he understands that things are bad. Okay, so need to try to find some chances. As this method also demonstrated Alexander Alekhine in his match against Yefim Bogolyubov. In his matches against Yefim Bogolyubov in 1929 and 1934. And this important thing attracted attention Kasparov in his books. Okay, a4, a6, many variations. So in Chebanenko there is line on with a4 immediately, Slav Chebanenko. But okay, it depends of concrete position. So usually, if white plays a4, they are not trying to exchange his dark color bishop. So queen g5, not necessary. So black has many other good moves. For example, king h8 was prophylactic moves, and then okay, queen g5, nothing wrong. Queen d8, and now e4. So this queen f6, bishop b1. Even now, I think black has quite a good position, but opponent made mistake, tactical mistake, rook c4. So black has many good moves. For example, rook f8 and then rook f7. I think objectively black is worse. h3. It's possible. I played h3. Okay, it's one of possible idea. But rook c4 was terrible blunder, and knight e4. So tactical oversights. So feeling of knight. And now, of course, everything is bad. So very bad game objectively for Alireza, but with happy end. So what else we have? Gareev, very interesting game. So Gareev played knight c6 line, and now same like after d4, knight f6, c4, d6. White has choice to play knight f3 or to play knight c3. Knight c3 allows e5, like in game Polugaevsky Nizhmedina, which I showed. Knight f3, okay, after knight f3, white can not play Zamish system anymore, for example. f3, e4. So here, same story. After c4, knight c6, knight c3 is possible, and after e5, interesting idea to play d5, and if knight e7 to play h4 against knight g6. So if h5, bishop g5 is quite comfortable position for white. I have seen knight eg8, quite exotic move, but white should be better there. So this is possible with knight c3, but knight f3 was choice of Alireza. Yes, h4. But I am author of h4, so I played h4 in this position. Against Bauer, Christian Bauer. So knight c3, bishop b4, it's theoretical position. Also possible to play g3, of course, this version of Catalan. Or Bogo India, I mean this line, queen e7. And now knight c3 is possible to avoid line this, because now queen takes d2, knight e4, it's not so pleasant for white, and after knight bd2, a5, castle, d6, e4, e5, d5, knight b8, knight e1, h5, black has very good version of Bogo India. So if white wants to avoid this, knight c3 is good choice. Okay, so knight c3, bishop b4, queen c2, theoretical move. Another very logical move is bishop d2 here. And if, for example, takes, knight e4, rook c1, and then g3, bishop g2. So queen c2, d6. And now almost all strong players playing bishop d2 here. And then a3 and bishop takes c3. So e4, it's a very complicated line. And now, according to theory, black should play castle. E5, d takes e5, d takes e5, knight g4. This is very complicated position, and I have a lot of information about in encyclopedia D volume 3 in page 480, and also in a very old book of Taimanov, Nimtsovich Indisch bis Catalanisch. This book from 1972. And Taimanov explained that bishop f4 is the best way. Okay, probably a3 it's also option. I have seen this idea if bishop c5, knight e4, something like this. Queen e4 is obviously bad for white because very nice trick. And black wins the pawn. Matches against Kasparov, matches. I played, if just matches, I played 2 matches. One of them I lost, it was in Frankfurt, and another one I won in Prague. Both of them was rapid. So queen e4 is bad, so bishop f4 he consider, knight d4. And now queen d2 he consider like main move. f6 for black, it's funny move. So if knight f3, g takes f3, I think this is idea. This take with king, and if knight takes f2, rook g1, and black has some problem with his knight on f2. So he considers f6 here, castle, c5, bishop g3, and now Ryumin against Rogozin took on e5. According to Taimanov, probably more precise was queen a5. This is Taimanov recommendation. So. And in encyclopedia, what they consider, This is green. No, no, no. No, 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 not 409. This is Grünfeld. It's another. It's not D line, it's E. So volume 4 already. So they are considered like main move Queen D1, but strange move Queen D1, which are considered Queen D1 here. Queen D1, Bishop C5, Bishop G3, F5, and no, sorry, knight d2 here they consider f5, knight a4, but it looks like very bad for white. So queen d2 looks more logical. What played Ragozin against Ryumin. And so f6, according to Taimanov, is the best. Castle, c5, and after bishop g3, Ryumin played f takes e5. After knight takes e5, knight f6, bishop d3, queen e5. And complicated position, but for me it looks like better for white after, for example, king b1, because knight on e5 very strong. So according to Taimanov, instead f takes e5, queen a5 was more precise with contraplaying. I don't know what is this. So, but certainly very interesting position. And also I want to remember the game Carlsen Kramnik after e6, knight c3, bishop b4, queen c2, castle, e4, d6. So e5 it will be this slide, knight g4, knight f3, which we just considered. But Carlsen played bishop d3, and after knight c6, knight g2, Kramnik played excellent move bishop a5, and suddenly white is in big trouble because bishop b6 is a very unpleasant threat, and also in some moment knight b4 is threat. So it's now after castle e4, d5 is another theoretical line. That's right. Yes, yes. E5, knight e4, this is another theory. But at the moment after d6, almost everybody playing a3 this line. And then bishop d3, knight e2 is a very complicated play. So bishop d3, it's not popular anymore after game Carlsen against Kramnik. But okay, let's come back to game against Gariev. So instead of solid bishop d2, Firouzja played e4, very brave move. And now Gariev played e5 immediately. So after castle, e5, same position, takes, knight g4. If white plays bishop d3 and bishop a5, again, it looks like very logical idea to prepare. What if black plays d6 before castling? Okay, so Gariev played before castling, so now he played e5. Also, castle is totally possible. Also possible was to take on c3 to force take with pawn, and now play e5, this position to play. But now d5 is possible, and then c5 is coming. It's complicated position. 97, c5, for example, castle, I don't know. For example, takes, knight d2, with plan bishop a3, knight c4, something like this. It looks similar like Chigorin defense as well. Okay, so Gariev didn't play castle, which looks like principal. And he played e5. After d5, he is forced to take on c3, because knight cannot move because check, queen a4 coming. So, and now this structure is better for white. Yes, Chigorin like it knight. Yes. And now knight e7. Another possible plan is knight b8 and then knight d7, knight c5. Try to prepare, but white has time probably to defend against. For example, if knight d7, even b4 is possible. If a5 is a3, so probably a5 is more precise to play here, and then knight d7. So it's playable for black. So knight e7, because after knight e7 it looks like, of course, knight takes e4 is not possible because queen e3. So knight e7, it looks like black is planning to prepare f5, but Alireza started to play h3, so it looks like he is preparing g4. So, and in some moment, long castle he is considering like possibility. So very educated. He is not hurry with castle, and this is good strategy. Probably black should try c6 now with idea if castle to make this operations. But even here it's very far. Okay, now knight takes d5 is possible. So of course, white has enough compensation, but probably black, I mean, something like this. But probably black can equalize it somehow. Probably not. Okay, so a5, but so Alireza playing very flexible, so not hurry with g4, because after g4, somewhere knight g6, f4 square, somewhere h6, knight h7, queen f6, knight f3 will be hanging. So till black has no real threat f5, Alireza don't like to hurry with g4. Knight h4, very original move. So g4 looks like natural, but okay, g4, knight g6 probably, and then queen f6, not immediately queen f6, of course. So g4 looks like very natural move. For example, here, something like castle to prepare rook g1. Queen f6 immediately not possible because bishop g5, of course. So just in this position, black not losing queen, because knight e2 is idea, but okay, so queen d2 and bishop takes f4, white will have healthy pawn at least. So g4 was possible, knight h4, it's very fresh idea, so it looks like knight under attack, but black cannot utilize it immediately, because after knight takes d5, c takes d5, white will take on c7, and black has terrible pawn on d6. So knight c5, knight f5. So white occupied f5 square without playing g4. So and also tactical points that knight takes e4 not possible now because of intermediate check. Knight takes e7 and black is losing a piece. And g4. So total control. h5, f6, b3. So and now it's terrible for black positionally because there is no any contraplay and white can prepare a3, b4 slowly. So main positional points. Okay, so now it's very standard. Black cannot do anything. Okay, Gareev played b5, but of course white can play king f2. Many normal moves are possible, but h6 and knight g7. This is influence of alpha zero somehow, but it's good influence. Yes, knight g6, knight f4 is possible, but what after? White will prepare a3, b4 and play. So now king f2, not hurry with knight e6, so he's enjoying this position of knight on g7. in d2, knight h5. So not knight e6, but knight h5. So very concrete play. Rook ac1, so a4. Rook g1. Rook g1. In which moment rook g1? Maybe, but in which moment? Rook g1. Okay, so now white is pawn up and position of black. So b4 and bishop b3. So very concrete play again. So he feels two moves before he played it. So, but rook hg1 when so after h6. So, but what is point of rook g1? I don't understand. Okay, so before and bishop b3 excellent, rook c6 excellent, and now takes. So total control on the board. Knight g3, so improve his knights. Yes, so he won very convincing. So this game is very strong played by Firouzja. Is it all for today or something else? Kirill Shevchenko, Marty Rosyan. Yes, for today, this is all. So 5 games, I consider it. So I hope I helped to understand the better style of Alireza Firouzja. Okay, black had chances, but in this game Firouzja outplayed him. So the worst of their games is his game against Yakubovsky. So he played terrible, especially the series of moves was really terrible. But then, because of tactical mistake of opponent, he was lucky and he won the game. So uh, stars are very important to reach victory, and so we will wish a lot of successes to the young and very talented player Alireza Firouzja, and I hope in future I will comment many of his games. But for today it's too late. I need to sleep and relax. So see you next time. How much was preparation? I don't know. For example, against Shevchenko, how much was preparation? Yes, he is practical. He is good practical player, and he has good abilities. That sometimes he can play series of very bad moves, but then concentrate again and start to play decent level. So goodbye.